we're not saying that Washington was perfect, because I know that some people are going to say that, well, what about his slaves?
We'll
Didn't
get to
Washington own
that, but go
slaves?
ahead.
Yeah, yeah. So didn't Washington own slaves? Yes, he owned slaves. He owned at one point probably 500 slaves. What was unique about him, though, is that he took it upon himself and he granted them liberty from them. He released his own slaves without any requirement from the law, without any requirement from anybody else. He granted them their freedoms and then gave them the land that they were tending as their own. So, I mean, for as many flaws you may say that he is, he recognized that slavery he saw was abhorrent. He thought it was just a disgrace for the country to have to go through and to make some of these compromises that we had to, as we talked about previously with the 3/5 compromise and other compromises. But he saw that it was a necessity at that time to keep us united and to keep the country together. But he thought so he recognized how wrong it was, and he took the step to release his own slaves and go forward and pushed forward to have others release them on their own as well. I'm sorry, I just went off on that.
No, it's fine, because it's an important point to make. Again, we've said this before. We will say it today. We will say it in context of other things that come up when we talk about our country's history. In any history, you can't put the present lens of reality on
Right and
something
wrong.
that happened 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 250 years ago. It's a different time, a different norm. Not to say it was good, right, or anything like that. It just is different. You can't expect, for example, if you ran around, and this is not being political, it's not being denigrated, and anyone who, for example, is in a same-sex marriage today, if they showed up through a time machine in Philadelphia in 1776 at the Declaration of Independence being read, and they said, we're a same-sex couple, and you ought, here, rah, rah for us, they would have been pilloried. They would have been castigated. They would have been probably thrown in jail. And that's not right, but that's what would have happened, because you can't superimpose the lens of, say, 2026 onto 1776.
Right.
Same thing with slavery. George Washington, we already talked about, his father died when he was 11, meaning George Washington was 11. When he was 11 years old, he inherited slaves from his father. Think about that. So it's part of who you are already. You're 11 years old, and for the time you were born and up until you owned them yourself, you saw slaves on your property because your father owned them. And now you own them at the age of 11. Thomas Jefferson, with the words that he created in the Declaration of Independence, really resonated with George Washington. And he really did a lot of deep thinking about this.
Right.
Would it be, this lovely Hollywood story that as soon as he read the Declaration of Independence, he had one of those Scooby-Doo moments? Oh, how stupid of me. Why didn't I? Let me just free everyone right now. It wouldn't have happened, couldn't have happened. But he on his own, as Lou said, he freed his own slaves. And it goes oftentimes by the wayside and not recognized that he did that in a time when no one was doing that. No one did that.
Right.
Of note. No one, I can't recall, and there may be, and I apologize if there are other founding fathers from the South who had slaves who did the same thing before 1800. I don't know of any.
Right.
So he really did. He wasn't just the military man. He wasn't just the statesman. He really was a deep thinker, and he put into practice things that were not common.